What's going on YouTube? My name is Sweat. Welcome back to another Apex Legends video. Today we're going to be covering some movement techniques you'll need to survive in Apex Legends. In this video we're going to be going over left to right strafing, crouch shotting and crouch peeking, slide jumping, sliding around corners and into cover, slide shotting, controlling sprint and slides, jump strafing, bunny hopping, keeping your body on the right of structures, zipline jumping, overall positioning of your team and individual self, and a bonus tip I have for you guys is wall jumping. Now I'm going to consider it a bonus tip because it's not used too much in gunfights and it's easier to do on PC than it is on console, but it can still be done, so I'm going to include it in this video anyways. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button as it would really help me out, and like the video, share with your friends if you learned anything, and let's hop right into it. Alright, before we start this video, I do want to say that everyone should take something away from this video. There are going to be basic tips, and there are going to be tips that most of you aren't utilizing in-game, so this should help everybody. There's a wide variety, like I said. So, tip number one is going to be left to right strafing instead of standing still. Now, the idea of strafing is moving left to right in order to dodge the enemy's bullets. This should always be your go-to movement when fighting because it will throw your enemy's aim off, which will therefore make them miss more of their shots on you. Let's just say there's a player standing still shooting at you. Their body and head will be a lot easier to hit than someone who is strafing back and forth. Tip number two is going to be crouch shotting or crouch peeking. We're going to be covering both in a little bit of detail right here. Now, when I say to crouch when shooting people, you might think of just the obvious, which is going to look like this, just crouching and shooting without moving your body. This tip can actually be way more complex than that. One thing you can do is keep crouching repetitively to ensure that your enemy won't get a clean headshot on you. If you are dodging up and down, the enemy's aim will be insanely inaccurate compared to if you were just sitting or standing still. You can also decide to crouch at certain points to throw enemies off and their timing. I'd say about 85 to 90% of Apex Legends is actually movement based and winning mind games with your opponent, while the other 10 to 15% actually comes down to your gun skill. Now, a big part of that is also positioning, which we will talk about later on in the video. But for now, let's just pretend that we are pairing the crouch shotting along with the strafing left and right. It's going to end up giving your enemies a run for their money in the lobby for sure. The last thing I want to cover when talking about crouching is peeking cover when using this technique. When you're behind a piece of cover, try to pop out for a few seconds, get some shots off, and then retreat back in order to give yourself the advantage in gunfights. This is especially helpful if the enemy is running out in the open. It's a great way of saving your health and barely giving them enough time to shoot your head while you're bobbing up and down from cover. This is also very helpful in 1v3 situations in pecking some damage, so definitely give this a shot if you aren't already using it. So tip number three is going to be slide jumping. Slide jumping can be crazy effective, especially when you have an enemy low and are trying to finish them off. Instead of slowly rounding a corner and aiming down your sights, try to slide around the corner and hit those last couple of shots before the enemy can regain aim on you. Let's say you just creep around the corner ADSing. The enemy is going to have a lot of time to hit their shots on you and gain a nice headshot and be able to kill you. But if you slide jump around the corner, then they will be missing way more of their shots. Seems pretty clear to me, but it's up to you guys to decide if you want to use this tip. Another thing you guys can do while slide jumping is try to evade bullets at all distances. Let's say you run out of ammo and are stuck in the open, right? Instead of standing there like SpongeBob SquarePants, okay, soaking up all the enemy's bullets, let's try to jump slide back and forth, side to side, in order to give yourself that extra time to get the reload off and stand a chance at winning the gunfight. Tip number four is going to be a pretty basic one, and this is going to be sliding around corners and into cover. Everybody should already be doing this in Apex, but if you're not, I just want to explain it for a little bit. Instead of just straight up running to a piece of cover or around a corner, make sure you guys are sliding into it because it increases your speed and actually makes your hitbox a lot smaller in the process. Next thing I want to talk about is slide shotting. Slide shotting can be effective when sliding down hills or around corners because it allows you to dodge bullets while still pummeling your opponents with shots at the same time. Just note that it will be quite a bit harder to hit bullets while sliding and aiming at enemies from far distances, so I would recommend using this up close, or if you're sliding backwards down a hill, to warn enemies that you are ready to fight and possibly scare them off in the process. Next up is controlling your sprint and slides. Now, if possible, you want to stop your sprint or slide on a dime to get the most accuracy out of your shots rather than continuing to slide or sprint. As I said, it will be inaccurate from distances if you are continuing to slide or continuing to sprint while you're shooting. So definitely want to try to stop on a dime and get your shots the most accurate as possible. Practice stopping quickly, as this will throw off opponents' shots as they are trying to track you and could win you some extra gunfights if you are able to hit your shots consistently. Now the last tip I have to do with strafing for you guys is jump strafing. This technique can be used to dodge bullets or come around the corner while still surprising enemies. This is very similar to the slide jump, but the difference is that your aim will be a bit more precise, as it will be closer to their head at all times, rather than with the slide jump, then you're going to be aiming lower. Also, jump strafing can help evade bullets in the instance that your enemy is aiming low and at your knees, let's say. Much like a hurdle in football, you can evade the defender and take less damage, as they will be aiming at your ankles, therefore missing most of your shots if you jump over them. Alright, so now we're going to move on to some tips that you guys might not be using, and the first one is bunny hopping. I know a lot of people do use it, but some don't, so that's why I'm covering it in this video. As most of us know, bunny hopping was very effective in the early stages of the game because you could heal while still moving at full speed. Since then, this has been nerfed down quite a bit, but it can still be done at a lesser scale. Now, in order to bunny hop, you would jump and then keep pressing your slide or crouch button every second or two. If you feel like healing while bunny hopping, it can still be used effectively when trying to get away from enemies. Bunny hopping allows you to keep changing your body position by bobbing and weaving up and down, and this will also make it very hard for enemies to hit you consistently. Also, don't be afraid to use bunny hopping to transfer from one piece of cover to another, as the opponent will most likely not expect you to be doing this. Now, I mentioned this tip in my how to play aggressive video. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out right now. I'll link it above. But I thought it was important enough to add back into this one. When standing behind cover, if you peek out from the right side of the structure, then less of your body will be shown than if you peek out from the left side. This is because the gun is held on the right side of your body, if you did notice. Therefore, only a small portion of your body is exposed on the right side when you are trying to get a clear shot on your enemy. On the other hand, if you peek out from the left side, 75% or more of your body will have to be exposed in order to get a clear shot. This is something that most players don't think about in the heat of the moment, but if you are aware of it, this can gain you a slight edge in gunfights. Now we're on to tip number whatever. I lost count by now, but I've touched on this tip multiple times as well, and that is zipline jumping. In order to pull this off, just tap your jump button while riding on the zipline and keep reattaching to it. This will make it much harder for the enemies to hit you. And let's say you're just flying right at an enemy, it's going to be very easy for them to laser you off, rather than if you're jumping up and down, bobbing and weaving, it's going to be very hard for them to laser you off of it. Also, if you are a Pathfinder main, this is going to give you an extra advantage, as you can fall off the zipline, grapple back up to it, and it makes it basically impossible for enemies to laser you off of them. Now, the last tip before the bonus tip is going to be positioning, and positioning is one of the most important things in Apex Legends. It's key in winning gunfights and dodging bullets to get the upper hand on opponents. Make sure to give yourself the best chance by getting high ground and beating enemies to the zone when necessary. When you are on the high ground, you will have a much smaller hitbox than the people on the low ground below you. This is because they can only see your head while you can see their entire body. When it comes down to beating enemies to the zone, this will ensure that you don't have to take any damage from zone while they are constantly being hit by it and even blinded by the ring. This will definitely give you an upper hand, and you have to get positioning down in order to win games in Apex Legends. Now on to the last and the final bonus tip, as we are going to consider it, because it's not used too much in gunfights, like I said earlier. But if need be, you can jump off a wall to dodge enemy gunfire and give yourself a better chance at surviving. Just run up to the wall, hit your jump button, and as soon as you make contact with the wall, jump again. This will give you a boost to possibly jump over enemies and catch them by surprise. Because this is a movement guide, I had to include this final tip. Alright guys, that is going to wrap it up for the movement techniques you'll need to survive in Apex Legends. If you're new, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Like I said earlier, like the video if you enjoyed, and comment down below what your favorite legend is in Season 3. Mine's personally Pathfinder, but we all have our preferences. Till next time, guys. Peace out.